Alright, what is going on, guys? My name is LeonMaster. Welcome back to another Overwatch League video, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different with a topic I think everyone wants to kind of hear sometimes. My favorite players from every team in Overwatch League season 2020. Keep that in mind. Season 3, not this next season, not all time. We're doing last season, which is 2020. And I honestly think you're going to be surprised by some of the picks. And also, I want to try something a little bit different this video, as you can already tell, with the face cam. I may change it up with the music. Maybe it already is, maybe it isn't. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but whenever I edit, obviously. But let's go ahead and jump right into it. And with the Atlanta Reign, my favorite player from the Atlanta Reign has got to be Dogman. The reason it's going to be Dogman is because when I looked at the roster, there was no one that really stood out with the Atlanta Reign. But one that really stuck out to me was Dogman, because maybe some of y'all don't know or do know. Dogman watched some of my videos on his stream, 2 years ago, and he said I had good videos. He ended up subscribing to the channel, and he also followed me on Twitter. We talked to each other in DMs. All around, that really stuck out to me, and I'd say we're pretty cool with each other. And that's all around I gotta say of Dogman. We can talk about his skill. His skill was all right when it came to Season 3. Season 2 was really good for him near the end of the season, of course. But when it came to Season 3, it was rough for Atlanta in general. But all around, when it comes to everything outside of the game, Dogman has got to be my favorite. Then onto the Boston Uprising. It has got to be Myeonbong. I think that one's almost everyone's favorite from last season because of how good Myeonbong was coming into the season and how good he was in general for Boston. Obviously, he wasn't one of the insane flex sports, but he was definitely near it, and he did his best what he could with the limited resources he had on the Boston Uprising. He's definitely one of those players that did stand out to me when it came to the Boston Uprising roster. I couldn't really choose anyone else, maybe other than Fusions, but it definitely had to be Myeonbong for me. Then onto the Chengdu Hunters, it has got to be Jinmu as well for this team. Jinmu would have been one of my favorite players since the start of Season 2. He really came through being one of the better flex DPS players in the league. He really made a name for himself pretty fast on the characters like Genji and Hangzhou all around, and it was always fun watching him play those heroes, also beside Ameng beside him. And whenever he plays beside other people and against people, Jinmu is just a really fun player to watch all around. I may not have the most in-depth reasons why people are my favorite, and sometimes it could just be basic reasons why they're my favorite players, but Jinmu, he's really a standout. It maybe could have been Leave or Eviltov for my next favorite, but definitely Jinmu has been my favorite since even Season 2. Then on to the Dallas Fuel. Some of y'all may expect this one from me, but it's got to be Paintbrush. I think everyone loved Paintbrush last season. Obviously, when it comes to in-game, maybe not as much, but when it comes to him out of game, he is just one of the funniest guys in the league, and all of his tweets are hilarious, all of his skits. When he loses, they're funny. When he wins, they're funny. When he got released, even though I bet it was not good for him, when he got released, his skit was kind of funny, and the most recent things with LA Valiant is just hilarious. Paintbrush all around in general, and the Dallas Fuel, he was all right. I would say he was a tiny bit better than Closer. Not a lot though. Like, there was no differences whatsoever. And the only reason Paintbrush was actually in because he was more of a shot caller compared to Closer, who can shot call a little bit, but Paintbrush was like all the time shot calling. And also another thing, I really love seeing players come ups. That could be a numerous thing that coming out throughout this entire list. Some of these players had a lot of come-ups, through contenders, and he also went through a lot with Revival, which is the team I really remember the most. Also with Florida Mayhem Academy, he was good on that team too. I love seeing him come up. I thought he had potential. He did come into Overwatch League with the LA Gladiators, and then ended up on the Dallas Fuel. Then onto the Florida Mayhem, it has got to be Gargoyle. I've been watching this guy for a minute now, and when he first got signed to the Florida Mayhem, I was really excited to see how this go out. And he really dominated on Diva and Hog. And I remember I was like one of the only people who really hyped Gargoyle up coming into Season 3. A lot of people thought he was just going to be a Hog one trick. He was not going to be as good. I was one of the only people who was like hyping him up. He ended up coming through with my hype, with the expectations I had for Gargoyle, with the Sigma, with the Diva, and occasionally the Hog. We didn't really see it all the time, and maybe some Zarya. He was still that top off tank. I knew he was going to come through with the Florida Mayhem, and hopefully we see that once again next season with OG, and that'll be really fun to see how that turns out. Then onto the Guangzhou Charge. This one was an obvious one for me, is Shu. Just like another thing of Paintbrush, his come up was also really cool to watch. And when he first got signed to the Charge in Season 2, I was so excited. I know how good Shu was coming into the league. He was going to be one of those top flex sports. He ended up doing that, and he was consistent almost every game. Top level of just play on Zen, Ana, even BAP with the most recent season of the Overwatch League. Really saving this team in numerous occasions with Shu on this team at Guangzhou Charge, and I'm really excited to see how he turns out on the Los Angeles Gladiators. On top of that, Shu has a lot of potential for next season, even on a team with like Moth, Muse, Space. I'm really excited to see how Shu comes into the LA Gladiators next season, and him being on Charge was just insanely fun to watch. Then onto the Hangzhou Sparkle, just like another thing with a come up. This is almost like a season 2 kind of list at this point. But Godsby. Godsby was another favorite. Next is maybe going to be Architect, just with him on the shock and coming to the Spark. But Godsby, another one of those where I watched this come up through Korean contenders. Really just dominated in contenders and coming to the Spark. It was kind of not as dominant, but he was still just fun to see him play in the Overwatch League, finally getting to where he wanted to be. And he still ended up being, I would say, a solid player. Almost the definition of a solid player. Occasionally had those high-tier performances. And hopefully he gets even better next season with the team that it looks like right now, with all the pickups they have with 12-man roster. I will say the next bet was probably going to be maybe QOQ or Architect for the next player. But Godsby is just, it's like a special place in my heart, because seeing players come through in contenders and making their way on the Overwatch League just really makes me happy to see. Then on to the Houston Outlaws. This one was kind of an easy one for me. It's going to be Meko. Just seeing this guy play on the Houston Outlaws, coming through the struggles he had at the start, being, I remember a lot of people said the worst off tank in the league at the start of season 3. It was crazy. And then he ended up getting better like a month later or a couple weeks later. And Meko just really showed that he was still as good as he was back on the NYXL. And that makes me so happy to see what the potential of Meko has if he ever comes back in the Overwatch League. I really hope he does. And all around, it does suck to see him not in the league, but I do got to say, league level is crazy this year. You almost can't really pinpoint the worst team. Obviously, Vancouver is probably going to be the worst team next season, but it's the level of play is insane. Meko could maybe go to a team or two, but teams are really set in, and they have academy teams like Boston Uprising, Gableshi. They're going to be probably their next pickup for the off tank. So I hope we see Meko at some point in Overwatch League, maybe expansion teams in like season 5, but we'll need to see where that goes. Then on to the London Spitfire. This one was an obvious one for me. It was Bernard. Just like another thing of come-ups, he finally made it into the London Spitfire from Philadelphia Fusion University and all of that in contenders. And he ended up making it on the London Spitfire for the Overwatch League. Not the best London Spitfire roster, but he made it, and it just makes me so happy to see Bernard make it in the Overwatch League. And he ended up dominating insanely well on the London Spitfire. And it just made me so happy to see Bernard make it in the Overwatch League and ended up being one of the top off tanks in the league. I would say probably around top 10, almost top 5, but not top 5, 100%, almost, but definitely top 10 for sure. And Bernard, he really made it good on London Spitfire, and hopefully he dominates on the Spark, and I definitely think he will dominate on the Spark as well. On to the Los Angeles Gladiators. This one was another easy one for me. It had to be Space. Space is almost kind of like Paintbrush, where he has those funny tweets here and there on Twitter, not all the time, but also him working so hard just to be insanely better every day in the Overwatch League and just in Overwatch in general on ranked and when he streams. He's really dedicated to the game, and you can really see that come through when he plays every game on the stage Overwatch League. I can't really pinpoint a really bad game from Space. I really can't. Maybe there was one a couple last season or season 2, but he really dominated season 1, season 2, season 3, and maybe even better in season 4 with Muse and Moth around him. So I'm excited for Space in the future. He has been insanely good, insanely consistent throughout his entire time in the Overwatch League as well. Then on to the Los Angeles Valiant. You probably think I would pick Apply, but no, I'm going to pick McGravy. Just like another thing I've said already. Also, unfortunately, if you guys do not know, McGravy has retired, which sucks to see, but he said it was a good decision for him. And I had to pick McGravy, just like the normal thing. Seeing this guy go through so much, with Overwatch esports, with contenders of Envision, Envy, making his way on the Florida Mayhem, thinking he was going to get that starting time over Zephyr and just all around help this team. And this team at the time said they weren't going to go full Korean. They were going to have like a mixed roster. And as soon as he gets signed, basically, like a couple weeks later, they go full Korean, and McGravy and Apply are sitting on the bench and just waiting to see what happens to them. And they end up getting traded to LA Valiant. He gets benched for basically a whole season. And then LA Valiant does their switch up. McGravy gets the starting time. And I would say he was a solid off tank. Not the best, definitely not the worst. He was a solid off tank, and he is now retired. I definitely think he has an interesting story when it comes to Overwatch League and Overwatch esports in general. But it sucks to see him retire right now, but it was his decision. Now onto the NYXL, another one. It's probably annoying at this point, but it's got to be Nene. I remember seeing this guy play on XL2 so much early in the days, and just him being the scariest player in contenders. And then he ended up coming through the season 2, being that scary player with Zari. He had occasional, hiccups, I will say. I think everyone remembers that one at the Somber play back in season 2. But other than that, Nene has still been one of my favorites. Season 3 was probably not the best for him, but he was still fun to watch, seeing that come up still. And I think Nene still has potential at somewhere. You know, obviously he's not in the league, but I hope he does come through. Maybe for a team like the Dallas Fuel, you know, they do need a tracer player, and I definitely think Nene could come in and play that tracer player, maybe even more for the Fuel. But we'll see what happens if Nene gets picked up or not. I hope he does. Now onto the Paris Eternal. This one's probably going to be expected. It is Sparkle. I think everyone knows how funny Sparkle is. He's been one of those players, many Twitch clips over and over again, where he screams in his mic, does some weird dances. All around, he's just being himself, and I love seeing that in the Overwatch League, kind of like Paintbrush. I love seeing that, and Sparkle is just a standout. How funny he is, very different compared to everyone in the league, where everyone in the league's very serious when they're in ranked or other things all around. But when Sparkle, he's in ranked, he's having a blast, he's having fun. He's making people laugh here and there, and I love that. And just in general, when you want to talk about his skill, very good on his heroes, I would say. Like Genji, Doomfist, all of that is really good for Sparkle. We all know from the tournaments, you know, Sparkle was insane. And hopefully he comes through with the Dallas Fuel on those heroes as well, like the Genji and the Doomfist, and maybe even more, you know, what the team's looking like. Then onto the Philadelphia Fusion. It's got to be funny, Astro. We finally got to see this guy play in the league, seriously. Obviously, he was on Atlanta Academy, got a 2-way in Atlanta Reign. And I know as soon as Atlanta Reign released Funny Astro, they lost a lot there, because I knew Funny Astro was potentially better than Masa, and he got to the Philadelphia Fusion, and he performed exactly how I expected to see him play. Insanely aggressive with Sado and also Alarm, and just being consistent every game, high level. He can switch between in and out, passive and aggressive. He's mostly an aggressive player, obviously, as we have seen. But seeing Funny Astro finally play, and he's exceeded my expectations, just insanely good player. Then onto the San Francisco Shock, it had to be Super. Just another obvious one. He's a hilarious dude. If you watch his Twitch streams all the time, I don't know how, but he makes me laugh all the time when I watch his stream. And even when it came to his play in the Overwatch League, you know, we didn't really get to see it a lot in Season 3, but he also won the World Cup. You know, I gotta love that. And also Season 2, he got a lot of playtime in Season 2. And hopefully we get to see him a little bit next season. Probably won't be the case. But all around, when it comes to Super, just being my favorite player, it's just him kind of outside of the game, being super funny on Twitter, Twitch, and occasionally in-game as well when he gets interviewed. Then onto the Seoul Dynasty, it had to be Prophet. Easily had to be Prophet. Seeing this guy still being insanely good throughout his entire time in the Overwatch League. He's still somewhat performed well in the Overwatch League. I say somewhat, no, but he did. He did perform well in the Overwatch League in Season 3. Obviously, it probably wasn't his best season compared to Season 1 and 2, but he still dominated in certain metas. You know, he had some hiccups here and there with certain metas, but Prophet still dominated, still one of those best players in the Overwatch League for sure. Then on to the Shanghai Dragons, a player I was really excited for this past season, and he ended up coming through, which has got to be Lee Jae-gon. I was super excited to see this guy come through, and he really was aggressive Lucio player. You know, I play a lot of Lucio in ranked when I get to, and seeing Lee Jae-gon do the things he does and gets away with it as well. Lee Jae-gon's almost like an inspiration when it comes to Lucio, and he's so different compared to other Lucios in the league. You know, you probably want to compare him to Funny Astro, but I say Lee Jae-gon is a little bit more aggressive than Funny Astro feels like. They're almost near the same level, but Lee Jae-gon is just way better, I would say, when it comes to aggressive plays. But that's got to be my favorite player for the Shanghai Dragons. Down to the Toronto Defiant. I know this guy did not get a lot of playtime, but it's you know, previous throughout this entire list. It's out of game, sometimes in game. It's got to be Surefour. I know this guy did not play that much last season, but when it comes to his streams, when it comes to his Twitter, it's just hilarious. Like, he's got to be my favorite. You know, there's a lot of things when it comes to my favorite players. If they're hilarious, they're kind of do a lot of memes on Twitter, like Apply. Obviously, I didn't put him down. He got almost no playtime. But you also be questioning why I put Surefour down. But Surefour, you know, throughout his entire time in the league, has been insanely good. And also on top of that, been insanely funny. He has this sense of humor I really enjoy, and I love it. You know, Surefour is just a funny player, and that's all I really got to say. Obviously, didn't really see him play a lot. You know, he's an insanely good Widow when he gets to play. Unfortunately, he'll probably be not back in the league again, but it was good to see his time playing, and maybe he'll play in the World Cup whenever that's going to happen. Then on to the Vancouver Titans. It was honestly a hard one for the Vancouver Titans. It was between like Dalton or Shockwave. You know, seeing Dalton also one of those like come up stories and him throughout his entire time in Contenders. But it had to be Shockwave, because Shockwave was one of those players that really, you know, impacted a team last season, coming in for his hits gameplay and really helped Vancouver Titans just a few more wins. Obviously, if it's hits gameplay, and occasionally he played some Echo, but Shockwave is like a definition of an insanely impactful player, came in for the Vancouver Titans and helped that team out a lot. That's all I really got to say about Shockwave. My second one probably had to be Dalton, seeing his come up through like second win at like Gladiators Academy and just all of that. Now on to the Washington Justice. This one was an easy one for me. It would have been for a different team, of course, but it's got to be Decay for the Washington Justice. This man, as soon as he joined the Justice, this man almost made him go to the grand finals. I joked about it on Twitter, but they were close to it. Decay almost made him go to the grand finals. So close because of how impactful he is on all hit scans, on Zarya. Decay is just a crazy player, and I'm excited to see what he does next season as well. Decay throughout the entire league last season was good. Obviously, there was internal issues behind the scenes at the Dallas Fuel, but even then when he played on the Fuel, insanely Widow plays. I think they still have the world record for the Rialto time. I could be wrong if it's the wrong map or not, but Decay really helped out with that record with his Widow play, occasionally his Ashe, his Tracer, his Kree. Decay is an insanely good player. Probably would go down as one of the best players of all time of all Overwatch League. He probably already has that down. And hopefully we see that come through next season for the Justice as well, especially the pickups like Mag and Fury, Closer, and Bebe. I'm excited to see what Decay does next season as well. But yeah, guys, that is it for all my favorite players. Probably some unexpected ones, and I know I talked a lot about their backstory throughout the Season 2 and 3. That's kind of how I am, though, when it comes to my favorite players, but that's got to be it for my list of favorite players from last season, Season 3 of Overwatch League. But anyways, guys, that's going to be for me. If you guys want to stay more in tune to Overwatch League news and Overwatch League stuff in general, don't forget to subscribe down below. Also, don't forget to join my Discord down below as well, and don't forget to follow my Twitter and my Twitch, and don't forget to hit that bell, and don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys on the next one.